Do you remember what it was about powerlifting that had you hooked besides like it being an outlet, a continuation of everything else?
Yeah, it was it was the objectivity,
Hmm.
compared to physique sports or bodybuilding. And then it was kind of an interesting thing. I loved my time playing football and my experience with team sports in that respect. I also really loved the notion that whether I succeeded or failed in powerlifting, it was because of me. And same thing applied for bodybuilding, but this just felt like more of a fit, something that I could actually get into, and that it would be a good match here. And I have always enjoyed, well, once I got into that phase of finding physical activities that I took to that I found engaging, I've enjoyed pushing myself and really seeing how well I can do. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm the eldest of five kids, so chalk it up to some oldest child syndrome,
Yeah.
being a perfectionist and all this stuff. But that was the case in academics. I always tried to do as best I could. Same thing for physical endeavors. So powerlifting was appealing that way. Plus, I mean, the people who are the strongest, they looked pretty fucking jacked, and who doesn't want to be big and jacked, you know?
Right. You look at those guys and you're like, oh, so I can look like I lift and also lift.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly right.
And I wish Carson, he's the co-host with me. I wish he was here because he's like he always brings up that 2010 era fitness, YouTube fitness, and Matt Ogus is actually his favorite YouTuber still. He
That's
goes back
awesome.
and watches old videos.
Ogus just won his pro card if I saw it right.
I think so, yeah.
Big
That's
thing. Big
insane.
long time coming for him.
Right. 10 years, 20 years in the making.
Yeah, man.
So you also picked up coaching along the way. When did that start? Here, if you can
It's-
recall.
oh, I can recall it exactly. So
Nice.
this would have been 2016. Excuse me. So at this point in time, I am 2 years or about a year and a half removed from PT school. I'm a freshly minted PT. I'm working at a clinic, and in the first city I moved to out of school, and found a really cool crew of people at the gym that I trained at, which was down the street from my apartment. Met some lifelong friends who I'm still friends with now. One of whom, his name's Nick. He was a bodybuilder. He actually competed. He worked with Jeff Alberts from 3DMJ, and that was part of Nick's journey. But we met at the gym, just struck up a friendship, kind of just as anybody does at the gym. And then because of Nick and myself meeting, and then also kind of coming into the circle of other people, my friend and at the time coaching business partner, his name was Conrad, Conrad's girlfriend, both of whom were competitive and elite powerlifters, record holding and competing at the world level for Conrad at least. And I was getting more into powerlifting and heading towards the competitive route. Nick was saying like, "Hey, look, if you guys start coaching, I want to be your first client." So late 2016, that was the year. So we started working with Nick. Nick is still a client now.
Nice.
Grateful to say, and a dear friend as well. So that's really when coaching began, and I think it was Dr. Quinn Hennick from Clinical Athlete, who is also a friend and a colleague because I'm part of the Clinical Athlete team. But I think I heard him say it first, where if you're not looking back on what you were doing 5 years ago or 5 years plus and cringing, you're probably not growing a whole hell of a lot. And that's exactly what I think of when I think back to in the early days of coaching, where it was very much a figuring it out kind of phase. We did some things cool or like decently. We did other things. There was a lot to be desired,
Yeah.
but those are the early days of coaching for me.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I I think back in like the like specifically to things I would have done or was doing back then when I started. It'd be like the intensity, rep ranges, set numbers, volume in general, like all of that is like very cringy. And then sometimes I look at the exercises, the actual movements, and I'm like, I wonder why I stopped doing those. maybe I got too in the weeds with research and what is optimal. Because like the basics work pretty damn well for most people.
Yeah.
And I know this year in particular, I kind of looked back and I was like, why did I stop giving people close grip bench and only doing wide grip? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I got too specific.
I can feel John Flagg, again, my now business partner and good friend. He's shaking his fist at the sky, and he doesn't know why, because
Yeah,
he loves close grip bench. I also love it, but his motto that I've adopted is you can never have too much tricep.
right.
But your point stands, right? It's helpful to look back at what we were doing, and sometimes it is the question of why did I stop doing that? Because that still holds value probably here.
I definitely fell into a rabbit hole. I think mainly it was due to just being in PT school and being busy, and then like maybe seeing something and holding on to something for too long.
I think it's part of it, man. I mean,
You know?
I think for development as a lifter, as a practitioner, as a coach, be it in the fitness or strength worlds or the clinical worlds or both, I think that's a necessary thing where we need to hold that space for experimentation. Sometimes we've got a clear enough reason as to why. Other times, especially if it's experimenting on yourself, you just can try shit for the sake of trying it and just seeing how it goes.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a necessary piece of discovery and developing our own algorithms or thought processes as far as if this situation with these factors, how do I go about designing a program? What are my steps? And, I think it matters as much to find the stuff that doesn't work or really doesn't go the way you thought as it does to find the stuff that tracks with how you thought it was going to.
Really agree. I think I was aided by, I picked up the data-driven strength guys whenever they kind of first started growing a lot. And that really helped my kind of decision-making in the moment for powerlifting. And then now, I think I kind of got away from that a little too much, just with getting focused on the wrong things with people. But it's been good to kind of come back around.
Totally.
Bring it back down to reality. So in your powerlifting career, I do want to know, I imagine I'd have a good idea of it, but what's been the most memorable moment in powerlifting in your journey?
I'll split it up into, memorable moments from the competitive side for me, from the coaching side for me, and then maybe generally in the digital coaching experience, because that's been how I've coached most people. I'm gonna start with me. Start with me. Most memorable moment probably have been the last couple, because getting really, really sick last year, which again we might get into, but really starting at truly ground zero, bedbound, coming off of life support for 5 weeks, had the last treatment that didn't work, and then somehow making a miraculous recovery afterwards, losing 40 pounds of muscle, not being able to get up and walk, not being able to talk because I had a trach, and needing to just learn basic functions and recover enough to get home and then keep recovering. And I knew I was going to get back in the gym. I refrained from saying when I was going to compete until I felt good enough to do so. So it took me 9 months, give or take, to get to that point. But earlier this year in February, so 9 months after leaving the hospital, in and around that time, signed up for 2 meets. The first one back was May 25th of 2024. And then the most recent one was this past Saturday, August 10th. And hit post-hospital PRs for the squat and the bench press on both. This most recent one, I chipped both of those. I hit lifetime PRs on the deadlift and the dots on the first one. I hit another or more lifetime PRs on the deadlift and dots the second time around.
Nice.
And it felt like a win, certainly for myself, but also particularly for everybody who had supported me and my family, because there was a massive outpouring of generosity in terms of finances. People will drop by with tons of food to fill up the freezer so my wife and daughters didn't have to cook too much. People donated money, I think I might have said. They donated blood and plasma because I needed a lot of that. And just all sorts of stuff that was overwhelming in the best way. So between them, the medical staff that helped me out in the hospital, some of whom follow me on Instagram and asked permission to share how I was doing with the people
Nice.
who would have seen me in the ICU or the other wards when I was there. I was like, absolutely, because it meant a lot to them to see what their work and their effort had allowed me to do. So it felt like a shared win that way. And yeah, this most recent meet, well, actually both these meets, my wife and my daughters came out, they were cheering me on. So being able to hear that motivation on the platform. And then this past weekend, I was able to win my class. So coming away with a nice hard plastic gold medal, it psyched my daughters out so much. They were so stoked on it.
Nice.
So it was a shared family win like that.
That's awesome.
Thanks, man. So that's me. Coaching wise, one of the most memorable moments, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go with two of them. One of my clients, she and I started working together in 2020. She had a hip surgery, and she had competed once or twice before the hip surgery, and she wanted to recover enough and compete at nationals, CPU nationals in 2022. So it gave us 2 years time from the time we started working together. Nothing resembling a straight shot from start to finish. Tons of ups and downs, lots of curveballs. But fast forwarding 2 years, nationals was in St. John's, Newfoundland on the East Coast. And this client and I were there. I flew out to see her and to coach her. She made weight, and she made weight by the skin of her teeth. We just made it. And I remember vividly sitting in the atrium of the hotel where this was held. She's eating her pre-meet meal, and she's just smiling because we fucking did it. We got her to nationals, and she had a hell of a day. She left everything on the platform and performed incredibly well. The other one is also in St. John's, Newfoundland, at the same hotel, because later than that year, in 2022, IPF Masters Worlds was held there. And one of my other clients from Finland, she and I worked together for a similar length of time, she qualified for Worlds. She flew out. I flew out as well. It was the first time that we got to meet each other after working together for a couple of years. And I got to coach her on game day, wearing the honorary Team Finland jacket and polo, both of which I still have. And she took 8th in the world in her class. So two memorable moments for sure.
Yeah. That's
Man.
incredible. Just the journey alone. I mean, starting in 2016, you probably never thought something like that would happen. Right.
I mean, I'd hoped for it,
Yeah.
but it was a burgeoning hope where I'm beginning my process as a coach, and I'm just trying to figure out, what does a coach do? What does a good coach do? And
Yeah.
trying to, cross my T's, dot my I's, and just make sure I'm good. I'm decent enough on the basics. And then I remember when my athlete from Finland reached out. She wasn't my athlete yet, but she reached out on Instagram like, all right, cool. I've been following you for a while. This is my situation. Like, what do you got? For me, it was like the scene from The Office where Michael Scott freaks out because Pam's going into labor. Oh my God, it's happening. That was legitimately what was going through my head. And yeah, we figured it out along the way.
I haven't quite got there yet. All my athletes are still in the state, pretty much.